It is the weekly here on the Blue Room, the first one of 2021. Hope everybody is enjoying the new year in any way they can so far. At the moment, it's obviously bleak times in the city of Liverpool here and across the world, really, still. But yeah, hoping that it's going to be a good one for Everton, nonetheless. This should be a good show anyway. Joining me, three fantastic guests. Jake Mills, how are you doing, mate?
I'm okay. I like that you said, hope everyone's enjoying the new year.
Wow, yeah. I mean, what else could I have said?
It's like when people say Happy New Year, and you're like, come on, should we just leave that one this year?
Yeah, we'll jib up Happy New Year. Yeah, so, yeah, it's going to be all right at best. New Year. Paul McPartland joins us. How are you doing, mate?
I'm fine, Matt. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Getting by. And Ben Crawford as well, obviously host of the Monday show over on Blue Room Extra as well. How are you, mate?
I'm not bad, Matt. Yourself?
Not too bad, mate. We were just sort of saying there before we came on. It's weird when Everton play so frequently over Christmas that you go 4 or 5 days without them and you think it's been ages since they've played a game. But obviously in action at the weekend against Rotherham United, midday kick-off in the FA Cup, bit of a weird one, that. We'll have a chat about that game a little bit later on. We'll do a little bit on West Ham, but mainly on Richarlison, how he's been playing recently, and some transfer stuff and some transfer stories as well. But it's great that you're on today, actually, Paul, because I know you're really invested and involved in Marine, and it's going to be a big day for them on Sunday in the FA Cup, 5 o'clock. They host Tottenham Hotspur. Maybe not as big a day as they would have liked because of what's going on at the moment, and there's going to be no supporters there. But from what you've seen around the place and people you spoke to who are involved in the football club, how's everything shaping up for the weekend for them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously feel a degree of sympathy for them because they put so much time and effort into the preparation to ensure the ground was COVID secure and the fans could attend. And then when the news came through that Merseyside was in Tier 3, then that just put all that planning in, it was just so frustrating because, what they had done really well in terms of ticket allocation was, I think Marine had about 120 season ticket holders. The capacity was 500. They obviously had an allocation for players and for sponsors. I think that left about 200 tickets. And what they were doing was they were contacting people who had attended the most home games that season and giving them the nod that, look, the tickets are going to be available soon. We'll email you, come down to the club, buy your ticket. So they could have made the killing by just putting them on general sale. And I think you might have heard that the minute the draw was made, Marine's website almost crashed with the number of Tottenham fans trying to buy season tickets to make sure they could get a ticket for the cup tie. So yeah, I mean it's a tremendous occasion, for the club. They've got like a weather covering on the pitch at the moment to ensure the game's not called off. It could be with it being frozen or anything like that. I've been told by 1 or 2 people who have connections with the club that they're working on a few special tactics for the game, and there's an indication that they're looking to make a signing on Friday to bring in for the cup tie because they've lost 3 players who've been involved in the cup run because they came on loan from Salford. They've gone back to the host club and they've really struggled for numbers. So I think they're looking to bring somebody in. I don't think there's any truth in the room that Carragher's coming back out of retirement to play in the back 4 for them, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, Jake, you live near the ground, don't you? So you must be getting the vibes of how it's going down within the community, and it's all everyone's talking about when you walk around now. What I think Marine's chances on Sunday, what I think the score is going to be, and it's going to be a fascinating experience for all involved.
It is, and I think if you look beyond the actual match itself as well, and just for the community here, it's a massive blow for obviously the local businesses and even like the chippies and the cafes and everything else, So and the pub, which would have just made a killing. It's a massive shame that we can't be going to see it, but that's just hopefully they just beat Spurs and just get through to the next round. Hey, everyone's saying once in a lifetime, but beat Spurs, get through it again.
Hey, they had a hard game last night, Spurs against Brentford, to be fair. So yeah, I might be resting everyone going into that one. But yeah, best of luck, of course, to Marine on Sunday. It'd be amazing if they could get any kind of result in that game. Are they still doing relays in the FA Cup this year?
Start again, Matt.
Are they still doing replays in the cup this year or not?
No, that's it.
No.
And of course, Marine haven't played a competitive fixture for about 4 weeks now because they had an FA Trophy game against Southport. But the league's been they played on Boxing Day at City of Liverpool in like a local Merseyside derby. But apart from that, they've not played at all. So Tottenham have got a massive advantage just in terms of they've been playing week in, week out. And the big thing for Marine is going to be tomorrow. All the players get their COVID test. Now, bearing in mind that all the Marine players are part-timers, they've all got full-time jobs. They're all mixing with the public. The one outcome that Marine do not want to happen is that a number of the players can't play because they test positive for COVID. So fingers crossed on that one, because that'll just be an awful thing to happen to the club and the players. I mean, for most of whom it is a once. The phrase "once in a lifetime" is often overused, but in this occasion, it's quite appropriate.
Oh, got to be devastating that, wouldn't it? Getting a COVID test.
Oh God, yeah.
Is that usually away from Marine, is that usually the distance between a test and a game? Like 3
I think the clubs do it a lot earlier, don't they? Because I think on City, when their game was postponed, the Premier League clubs do it
earlier than that as well, so there's a bigger gap.
Yeah, I think they just do it a lot more frequently. So like they have like one
twice a week, I think, isn't it, for the Premier League teams?
So like I think City, for example, on that game we got postponed with them, they had tests on the morning, didn't they? And they were waiting on results from tests in the morning. So it happens a bit more frequently there. But you'd be devastated if you got a positive test and couldn't play in that much, wouldn't you, if you're a Marine player? But like Jake said, hopefully you just knocked them out. So, get them in the next round. The Merseyside derby, you might win for a change. Best of luck on Sunday. But moving attention to the Toffees, we'll look back before we look forward a little bit. We've done a lot of chat about West Ham, Ben, and what went wrong, et cetera, et cetera. And I think one player that we haven't really spoken about much yet and zeroed in on much is Richarlison, who he's having a bit of a weird time at the moment, isn't he? I think it's because you can sort of say still he's dead important to this side, and Everton are a much better side when he's in the team. But him himself is not actually playing that well. Obviously, he scored against Leicester, decent goal that night. But apart from that, he's had a few bad moments where he's been on the end of rough tackles. He's had a few. I was at the Chelsea game where he had a bit of a to-do with Carlo Ancelotti over the penalty, and Carlo effectively said to him, well, get on with it or you're coming off. And then at the weekend, on New Year's Day, even he didn't look like he was enjoying his football all too much. What do you think's wrong with him at the moment?
I think it's a really, really difficult workout process to do because he's playing what people perceive to be his best position. He's got Dominic Calvert-Lewin ahead of him to supply. But he just doesn't. I don't think it's a lack of effort. It just seems like there's something wrong in Everton's build-up play to me, because maybe he, more than anyone else on the pitch, is really missing the influence of having Luca Dean flying the other side. Because I think one thing that Richarlison does do, he does play obviously in the team as a winger, but he does drift inside a lot. And I think if you're drifting inside as a forward and you've got nobody offering the overlap, which to be fair, Ben Godfrey is not a left back, so shouldn't be expected to go forward like that. I think it really cuts down his options about what he can do. I'm interested to hear what the thoughts of the other lads on this, because with Richarlison, I've always nailed my colours to the mast when I've always said I think Richarlison is a striker. And I kind of bought into the whole thing at the start of the season when we were playing really well. It looked like we were going to win the league, where he was playing left side in the front three. And that seemed to really work. We haven't seen it now and he's only scored 5 goals this season. I think only 2 of them were in the league, and one of them was a penalty. I'm wondering not whether to get the best out of Richarlison, we need to try and play him back up front as a striker. I know there's different arguments about the formations and whether 4-3-3 is best, whether we actually want to go back to a 4-4-2 like we did last year when we were struggling. But for me, I just think it's interesting that this season compared to last, he's playing in what's perceived to be his best position on the left-hand side, and he's not getting as much joy. Whereas last season, he was our player of the season, playing in the majority as a striker. So just interested to see if any of the other lads really think that there could be a way of not shoehorning, but getting him back in more of a central area so that he can maybe add to the goals. Because if Calvert-Lewin's goals dry up from time to time, which any young striker, it's going to happen, you need someone else to be able to provide a goal scoring threat. And we just haven't seen that from Richarlison as much since he's moved onto the left-hand side.
Yeah, I think on that opening day of the season, Jake, when we played Spurs, although he was very wasteful in that game, he should have scored a couple of goals. I do remember thinking, bloody hell, he looks incredible on this left-hand side here. He ran Doherty ragged all day. he was driving in field, he was going around the outside, and you thought, this is really going to work for him. And he's played well in games this season where he hasn't scored. But I don't know, he's never someone you look at and think, I think Brazilians and South Americans get put in a box of they enjoy the football and they play with that sort of that sort of samba style. But I think sometimes he does look a bit moody, Richarlison, and maybe that's when we get the best out of him. But
yeah,
I don't know, it's just.
I thought you were going to say playing with a smile, and I was going to say I don't think he's ever played with a smile.
He never does.
Never.
But I agree, to be honest with you. I think he is happy when he's scoring.
Yeah.
But I think it's a funny one, really, because I think I actually agree entirely with Ben, with possibly as a caveat. I think it's mixing. It's swapping and changing. And I think Calvert-Lewin was doing the job that Richarlison is doing now, and Richarlison was scoring the goals.
Yeah.
And now it's the opposite. And so we're focusing on Calvert-Lewin, saying he's banging the goals in, but Richarlison's been absolutely critical in the amount of goals that Calvert-Lewin has scored. And I do think, and I think I might have read something that Carlo was saying, that he will eventually swap them round and allow Calvert-Lewin to be on the side and Richarlison scoring the actual goals. And I do think that's probably what's needed at the moment, is more than anything to gain the confidence in the player again, to actually be getting on the score sheet and to be getting a couple of goals in his favour, to give him that sense of wanting to play. And because I always felt sorry for Calvert-Lewin when he was on the wing, because he started getting stick, and Matthew would always one who would be standing up for him anyway and saying the amount of work that you do. But as a player, that must be quite frustrating. And I think it might be time now, because Calvert-Lewin arguably is having a bit of a dry spell compared to his form at the start of the season. So maybe it's the time now to allow Richarlison to play that central role again, to get a few goals and then swap it back. And that's what good teams do. It's what good managers do, is they're able to swap those players. And even if that's within a game, you can do that as well. But I just think if he was to start to get a few goals, probably from that central position, we might see that played again. And also, hopefully in that central position, he wouldn't be getting knocked as much as he is. I'm not entirely sure that this narrative that is out there at the moment about him going down constantly is actually as accurate as people are making it out to be. He used to be that player. I think we all said he needs to be standing up more. I don't think he's going down that much, but he's just getting whacked constantly on that wing. So I don't know. I think maybe just giving him a chance in that a short spell in the central role would be good for him and the team, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Jake and Ben have both said there. I think, as Ben points out, the lack of the partnership with Digne has made a big difference to Richarlison this season, because that partnership was very productive and has been for the past 2 seasons for the club. And I think, as Jake points out there as well, it's whether Richarlison grows better coming inside as a striker and giving DCL a break and not as a way forward. I'm not quite sure. I mean, the bare facts are quite concerning, aren't they? I mean, look, he's been our top scorer for the last 2 seasons. He scored 13 goals in 36 games last season. That's what, if my maths is right, that's a goal every 3 games almost. This season, he's got 2 goals in 12. That's a goal every 6 games. So the goals are certainly dried up. Whether it's because Ancelotti wants to be playing a different way and his main function now is to provide the service for DCL, I'm not quite sure. But I know Richarlison never looks like he enjoys his football, but at times, I think in the West Ham game in particular, it was obvious from kind of the look on his face that he just wasn't enjoying the experience at all. He was running down blind alleys far too often, which he has a tendency to do very occasionally. And his final pass was just missing sometimes. I mean, is he 23 now, Richarlison?
Yeah, I think so.
Same age as DCL, about 23.
Yeah, so he's still a young player. So young players go through dips in their form. He's not like an experienced striker, 28, 29, who's been there, done that. And I think, looking back at how our seasons kind of developed, the international break was the high water point for us, wasn't it? Because since the break, and the players who've come, the staff medical players in particular, have come back, they've not performed at the same level as they were performing before the international break. So I think it is a concern with Richarlison. I think, like you were saying, Jake, I would like to see him get a bit of respite. And I think the Rotherham game would be a good opportunity to actually play him up front as the main striker and give DCL a break and see how that pans out. Because, in terms of forward options, we're certainly lacking, aren't we? So, yeah, be interested to see how that pans out. But I don't buy into the criticism he was getting after the West Ham game. I thought was appalling. He's been our best player for the past 2 seasons. Yeah. I mean, the guy's built up a bank of credit for me. He's allowed to have the odd game when he's just below those standards. He's 23. Most clubs in Europe would bite our hand off taking Richarlison away from us. So, I think we need to do our best to give him his chance to come out of this to perform and get back to the standards we know he's capable of reaching.
Yeah, I think a little bit the frustration comes from the fact that I think we all sort of thought that this was going to be the year where he'd just sort of explode as a footballer. 23, he's had a couple of years at the club, maybe. I remember in the summer, everyone was sharing that bet that Sky Bet had. It was like 66 to 1 for him to score 20 goals. And it's like, it's a nap now. He's obviously going to score 20 goals this season. He's boss. And I think probably, what was that? Sorry.
I put that on.
Did you? You never know, mate. He have a great end to the campaign, yeah. But I think if we were all feeling that about him, he's probably felt that as well going into this season, hasn't he? And when you're not the main man, and when James comes in and does, I imagine the manager would have gone into the season still with the idea that he's going to be the main point of our attack. But just sort of through natural progression of Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Rodriguez coming in and doing so well, it sort of shifted a little bit. And in the early parts of the season, because we had the best creator in the league and the best goal scorer in the league, you had to take a bit of a back seat, and a lot of the play didn't necessarily go down his side.
Yeah, I think the situation with the penalty as well shows he wants to score. He wants goal.
He looks desperate to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what the match?
He does, and he looks like he needs a goal to put that smile back on his face.
Sorry to interrupt you, lads, but it wasn't that long ago he scored. Leicester wasn't ages away. Yeah. We're not talking about 10, 15 games. He scored recently, and I remember when he scored that goal thinking what you are saying now. Like, now he's got that goal, he's going to kick on again, and he's going to be sound. But if anything, he's got probably a little bit worse since then.
Maybe it's just in the position now, and as I said, with the narrative that's out there as well, teams are able to get away with a little bit more, hitting them a little bit more, and so it's just harder for them. Maybe people have got onto it, worked it out a little bit. And that's why you've got to change it up, and you've just got to give him another chance. And I do think you need to have I know what you're saying there, but I just think it's more a run of goals is what he wants. And as I said, he's a Brazilian striker. He wants to be scoring goals, and he's probably looking at Dom thinking, "Where have you come from? Where am I going?" So I don't know. Maybe we do see it at the weekend that he becomes that striker, but I don't think he'd be happy getting a hat trick against Rotherham. I think he'll want to be then going on and scoring them in the Premier League.
But at least if he scores against Rotherham, Jake, he's making the point, isn't he? So it gets the fans off his back then as well. And I think if he scores that Rotherham game, then hopefully that sets him up for a far more productive second half of the season for us.
Yeah, it's been a weird season for him, hasn't it? With international breaks, injuries, suspensions, all sorts going on. So, listen, I don't think any of us are sitting here saying offload him in this window by anything. It's just having a chat about the players' form. That's absolutely fine. But we'll have a little chat about some transfer stories before we get into speaking about the game at the weekend. Obviously, that time of year when it starts to ramp up. Outgoings first. I'll come to you on this one, Ben. Reports on Moise Kean. Sky saying Everton are expecting a bid of around 31 million for him. I think Paddy in The Athletic and the Liverpool Echo today have said that Everton are expecting a bid, but would probably want a little bit more than that. Where do you stand on this one? You're happy to see him go? Is that amount of money acceptable, or do you still feel like there might be a future for him at Everton?
I think if it was down to his pure ability, I'd like to see him back at Everton in the summer. To be honest with you, I was quite disappointed when we let him go in the first place, especially on a loan deal to Paris Saint-Germain. He's probably exceeded my expectations, the way he's actually played and how many times he's played for Paris. And to have him to come back into the squad, given the fact that we're hoping that we might qualify for Europe and the players you've already mentioned that we've already got in the squad, But unfortunately, I can't see a scenario, and I said this the second he signed for Paris Saint-Germain, I can't see him kicking a ball for Everton again. I just can't see the player being happy to. I can't see him coming back from Paris Saint-Germain and wanting to play football for Everton. I know that sounds a bit downbeat on Everton, but at the end of the day, he's not an Evertonian. He's not even, he's not even grown up in England watching the Premier League that much. To him, Paris Saint-Germain is quite clearly a massive, massive opportunity, and I expect him to do everything he can to stay. In terms of the money that we're talking about to let him go, it's probably about where I'd expect negotiations to start. To be honest with you, I don't think we should be taking a loss on him. Certainly wouldn't accept just getting the money back that we've paid for him, because I don't think that's very sustainable. We seem, to be ripped off a lot by clubs when we're buying players. So I think really we should keep our cards close to our chest here and try and negotiate the best deal for Everton. Like I think you've alluded to there, the Echo said today, there's no rush from Everton's side. At the end of the day, he's on a long-term contract. Whether they sell him now or whether they sell him in the summer, if it's the right price, it's the right price. They're in no rush to do business. I can't see a single scenario where he ends up coming back and playing for Everton and being happy about it. I think the second he leaves on loan to Paris Saint-Germain, I think is the second that we realise he's not got a future at the club. As much as someone like myself, like I've said, I really would like him to come back to the club and really, because I think we could do with him now, truth be told. I think, the little bits of injury, you look at Tosin as our only striker. Somebody said in one of the last games, on Twitter, they were saying, I wish we just had that in January. The money's gone to buy that striker who can also play on the wing or drop deep or just add a few more, like 10 goals a season to the. And that's exactly what Moise Keane could have done. So it was a strange one for me to let him go in the first place. But I can't see him having a future at Everton in terms of the money to let him go. Anything that's a profit, I think Everton will listen to. But you are dealing with, the oil company that is Paris Saint-Germain. If you can't, rinse them for an unnecessarily big fee, you're not going to have trouble. You're going to have trouble selling anybody because, if we go in for anybody, say we went in for James Ward-Prowse, who's probably a £40 million player, Southampton will go, we want 80 million for him. So I think it's about time we turned the tables and did a similar kind of thing to PSG and demanded top dollar.
Yeah, I suppose the only day, I agree with pretty much everything Ben said there, Paul, but I suppose the only danger is if, Pochettino may not fancy him towards the end of the season. I think Icardi's been out injured for a lot of the campaign. He's going to come back and might be ahead of Keane in the pecking order again. So the minutes he's got early in the campaign maybe might dry up a little bit towards the end. Obviously with the quality PSG have got there already. So I could sort of see why Everton would be tempted to take the money and run in January. Where do you stand on it?
Yeah, I thought Ben's analysed the situation quite well there, but I think as you mentioned there with Pochettino, if it turns out that Moise Kean is not going to be a regular starter under Pochettino, then I think that makes the prospect of having come back to Everton a bit more likely. But yeah, I thought it was strange with 11 goals on loan, particularly so late in the transfer window when we had a little room for manoeuvre to bring everybody back in to take his place. If we were to sell him, I think we also insert a massive sell-on clause to make sure we benefit from any future dealings with him. And also, the money being mentioned at the moment was £31 million. I mean, Liverpool sold Solanke to Bournemouth for £22 million. He scored one goal in the Premier League. They sold Brewster to Sheffield United for £18 million.
He's only scored two, to be fair.
Yeah. But bearing in mind, if Paris Saint-Germain are interested in him, and as Ben said, they're not short of €1 or two, are they? So we hang on for the best possible deal because we're in a no-lose situation here, aren't we? If we sell him and get a decent fee, people are happy because I think he's not happy with the club anyway. If he comes back after a season's loan and he's a much improved player and we benefit from that, then that also helps us as well. But I think the one thing I'm certain about is if we do sell him in January, we can't sell him without another striker coming in because we desperately need some cover up front. And whether there's someone in the PSG squad as a Pars X deal, I don't know. But just to sell him...
What about Mbappe?
Yeah, well...
I'd do, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Idrissa Gueye?
Well, I'd have Idrissa Gueye back, no question. And I suppose the question is whether Mbappe will get into our team or not, isn't it? But yeah, it's... But
not
yeah,
if Matt was picking it.
but definitely, I think we need to. If he goes in January, then we need to have a plan for someone to come in as a backup forward for the club because I think the lack of firepower as the season drags on could cost us dear.
Yeah, it's disappointing, isn't it, Jake, that we're sort of sat here talking like this about Keane because 18 months ago we were all so excited that we managed to prize this lad out of Juventus and get him to the football club and we're sat here, he scored 2 Premier League goals, and we're sort of saying that there's absolutely no way he's coming back to the football club.
Yeah, like I think it speaks volumes, though. And I'm somebody who I always back the underdog. I think being an Evertonian, that's what we do anyway. We made Strakulasi a hero, so we give people chances. But I think I agree that I was surprised that he went so late. I think what I was more surprised is that he went without a replacement. I think it probably again speaks volumes of how happy he was that we let him go. And I think bringing him back is as much a risk as getting somebody else with the money that we would get. But that's the most important thing for me, is that we have to use that money and we have to invest it in a striker, because I know there's argument about a right back positions, but as we've just said there, on Saturday and across Christmas, really, I know we won the Sheffield United game, but we didn't look like scoring. And on Saturday, or whenever it was, because I don't even know any days, when we played West Ham.
Friday, I think it was.
Friday, we took off Dominic Calvert-Lewin and brought on Tosin. And for me, that's where you need to spend the money, because once you take off Dom and what we've just said about Richarlison and the form is at the moment, you're basically surrendering that game to say we're not going to score. So would it take 31 million? In all honesty, it probably would take 31 million, but let's try and get more. Let's not just do what Everton do and just say, all right, thanks very much. But if we can get more in January, I'd probably do that, to be honest with you. And you look at, and I've always said, you don't get anyone good in January, but I think you look at people that Liverpool have had in January. I think Fernandes was a January signing for United. You can get people in January. So I would hope that they've already earmarked a few people and used the money and invest it into bringing somebody in. And I think with Carlo Ancelotti as your manager, I don't think you can get away with not doing that, because he's certainly put the point across with some of the subs in the squad, and the fact that we have 2 keepers on the bench every game at the moment says it all about our squad. Our squad's not good enough. So as I said, it's as much a risk for me bringing him back as going and trying to get somebody else in.
Yeah, I suppose, like I said, if you bring him back and you get him in the squad for next season, and he's not playing games because he's behind Dom in the pecking order and he's not doing very well, then all of a sudden your assets, the value, it's going down again and again, isn't it? So
you end up with like a Lookman type of situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely let him go. It's just how much we can get for him.
Yeah, that is obviously a disappointing situation, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And of course, the other thing, I don't want to be too boring, is that the finances came out, didn't they, towards the end of last year, and it was a 140 million loss for the year. That's going to have to be compensated. I know.
Killing all our January dreams there, Matt.
I wish we could just splash money like Footy Manager, mate, but sadly not. But one player who's been linked with essentially arriving at the club is Sami Khedira. Not really one I'd be too keen on, to be honest, lads. I mean, I don't know where you are with it. I'm not entirely sure bringing in another midfielder. He's probably more of a box-to-box midfielder than a sitting midfielder on big wages would necessarily be the right thing. I read a report today that he, Juventus could potentially buy him out of his contract and then he would be free to sign a 6-month deal, which that'll be all right, I think. But anything longer than that, I'd probably be a little bit wary of. Paul, what do you think about that one, mate? Would you like to see Khedira come in?
Well, I don't think the midfield is an area of concern for me. I think we've got enough strength and depth in our midfield. Okay, I mean, if you bring in an experienced player of Khedira's standard for 6 months on we don't pay a fee, I suppose you could make the case that there's nothing to lose with that. But I think, as we've all agreed upon before, we need to bring a striker in. That is the one crying need that the club has to get us through the second half of the season. I mean, everyone's given choice for Eriksen or Khedira, because I know Eriksen's kind of being linked to us now. I think Eriksen poses a bit more of a goal-scoring threat than Khedira. So if that was a possibility, I'd show a bit more interest in that. But Yeah, you have to trust the manager that he knows the type of player that you want. If in Carlo's mind he can see a role for Khedira in the side, or if he sees him as an impact midfielder, then fine. But if you're asking me, is the midfield signing a priority? My answer would be no. No. I think our priority is a striker of some form, type, or description.
What about you, Ben?
I mean, it's a very lazy thing to say, and I hate it when other people say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If Carlo Ancelotti wants him, then I'm happy with that. And I hate people saying that. But at the end of the day, it is like why would you have someone like Ancelotti in charge if then he's banging on the door saying, I want this player, and you don't get him? But obviously, we're not going to pay a big fee for him. We might pay big wages on a short-term contract. But if Ancelotti thinks he can make the difference, he can make the difference. Because the thing for me is, especially given the situation we are in the league right now, we're well up there, well in the mix, even with the top four. It's times like this, January windows like this, where you're already on the road to achieving something. You've got to have that little bit extra. So if it was, say, Matt, if you were to give me the choice, if we sign him or no one, then I'd still rather have him. It's not a case for me of should we bring him in about the wages, should we bring him in because he's injury prone. If we've got somebody better to bring in, then absolutely. But if it's a case of we're not going to buy anyone but him, I would have him because I think if he stays fit, he is quality option. I think Ancelotti would only get the best out of him. And at the moment, I know I get Paul's point there about the midfield. He's dead right, but I think there's a big difference we've got a lot of strength, we've got a lot of depth, but I don't know whether we've got a lot of strength. I know people have been complimenting about Tom Davies, etc., lately, which is another debate for another time. But I still don't think our midfield is that good, especially given the injuries, where we're at liberty to turn down players like Khedira and say, oh, it's all right, we don't need them, because at the end of the day, anything that's going to strengthen the squad, even by an extra man, just give us that little bit of quality, or a little bit of defensive solidity, because as like a holding midfielder, then I'm all for it. As long as Carlo wants it, I'll back him, and it'd be quite exciting to get somebody over the line this month, to be honest. I can't see much happening at many clubs.
Yeah, I think the thing for me, I was doing a bit of research on Khedira. I went on that transfer markets website, which does document players' injuries, and on there, for Khedira, it said page 1 of 4 to start.
Which was like James, isn't it?
Yeah, which was a bit of a no. But I do think James has got 4. To be fair, mate.
No.
But, I think I agree with what Ben's saying in regards to the manager. Obviously knows him well. When he gets on the pitch, he's probably got something to offer us still. But I shudder at the thought of having another player who's, I think he's 34 in April, who's on inflated wages, who's not kicking a ball for us, like Fabian Delph. But when we signed Delph, all the conversation was conditioned by, if he's fit, this is what he might be able to do. And we all thought we can get him fit, get him in the team, and he'll be able to do a job. But players of that ilk, especially when they get to this age in the career, they don't really ever lose that injury proneness, for want of a better way of putting it.
I think that's a difference, because I think he gets in the team. I think he would, again, looking at that.
Even if Alan was fit?
Well, that's the thing, is that we've got.
Do you not think he plays deeper, though? Say we played the 4-3-3, Jake. Do you not think that we'd play Khedira as the sitter, and that would allow Alan to play a bit further forward? Because I think we've all kind of said that Alan might give us a little bit more of an option going forward rather than sitting deep.
And he hasn't at the moment. And then you look at the other players, like, all right, yes, there's a thing about Tom Davies, although I think he's done well. I don't know how well he will continue to be. I think Gomez has come on and looked quite good recently, but I do think that he would get in the squad. I've said this before, my view on transfers and where Everton have gone wrong in the past is that you need to look at your team and you need to say, is this player better than what we've currently got? Will this player improve what we've currently got? Regardless of age, doesn't matter. Are they going to be better? And are they going to get us to that next stage? As Ben said, are they going to get us to Champions League? And then once you're in that Champions League, then you get better than them, and you get better than them, and you get younger players on a longer contract. The problem that we've had in the past is that these type of players, we've signed up for about 8 years. We give them contracts to 42. That's where we've struggled in the past. What you need to be doing is giving them a year contract. Let them see how they get on, but then you're not tied to it. So if they are injury prone and turn into a Fabian Delph type of role, which is, it's a shame for everyone, then you're not losing too much from that. But if he can play a bit part even for 6 months to get us over that line, to get us that next stage, Ancelotti and European football, or ideally Champions League football, will be enough to bring in better players. So if we can just, we know, we all agree, because we've all watched it, our squad is poor. And if we suffer the injuries like what we just have, our options are so poor. So we need better options just to get us through this next stage of the season. Once you get there, then thank you. Great. You know, if you want to give them another year, you can do. But you can only kind of go into these type of contracts or these type of players by giving them a short-term contract to say, what can you do? Can you help us get to that next stage? And then you bring in better.
So if Khedira said, I'll happily sign 4 years, but I want 18 months, would you still go with it then? Or would it have to be that short-term deal? Like
18 months is as drastic as a 3-year contract. But I probably would. 18 months, I'd say that's the top of where you want to be at, really.
But I think we did that in the contract. There'd be a clause about if you don't make a certain number of appearances, then the money that you earn goes down. Because with an injury, I mean, I don't mind playing inflated wages for footballers who play week in, week out. So I do object to playing inflated wages for players who hardly touch the ball in an Everton shirt. Fabian Delpy being the prime example of that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he'd sign that sort of deal. But obviously, if he is effectively a free agent, then there'll be all sorts of mad options in there, wonder from various clubs offering him stuff. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Plenty more transfer stuff to come over the next few weeks. Not had Isco's name for a while. That's one I'd be dead interested in.
I think we've given up on Isco, haven't we, unfortunately?
But I think that's the sort of player I'd rather take a gamble on, if you get what I mean. You know, he's still quite young. Still wasn't too long ago he was one of the best attacking players in the world. Yeah, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Let's have a chat about the game on Saturday. 12 o'clock noon kickoff. Best of four. It's not really setting the pulses racing. But I'll come to you first on this, Jake. How strong do you think Everton go in this one? Obviously, they've got Wolves in midweek after it, which I imagine will be at the forefront of the manager's mind. But it does feel like maybe a good opportunity to get, obviously, James back in the team. And then you've got Dom and Richarlison, who, as we've both spoken about at the start of the show, could probably both deal with a goal. What sort of lineup do you think we'll see at the weekend?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I had a ticket for the Man City game, which obviously got cancelled. And then when they gave an option to go to the Rotherham game instead, I was devastated. So,
The
way City played against Chelsea, I bet you're glad you didn't go watch us play.
I know. I don't know. I've always been of the mindset that you start strong and take players off rather than go the opposite way. I don't think it will be a full strength side, but we've had players who are looking knackered. We've had players who are looking, I don't know, a little bit rusty, and players like, Seamus Coleman against West Ham was pretty poor, but I think we'll see Coleman in there. I think we've changed a lot of systems and we've changed a lot of formations, especially with the defence. So I think he'll probably use it as a way of reintroducing players and a system that he wants to be going back towards. We might see Godfrey in actually his position.
That was the one thing I was going to say, mate. I want to see him at centre-back.
I think it's a perfect chance to do that, because I think he's done himself really proud in what he has done, and I'd like to see him actually in position. So I think it'll be a mid to strong team. It'd be fairly strong. I'd imagine that we will see the likes of Richarlison. We might not see DCL, but yeah, I think it'll be a fairly strong. I think the likes of Sigurdsson, maybe Tom Davis, we might see. I think he's just going to give people a chance to prove themselves and ideally get that shape again to say, remember how to play with each other.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have James back, wouldn't it, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, the Colombian press is clamouring for him to be given his opportunity against Rotherham, because they're saying he's suffering a crisis of confidence at the moment and he really needs to start playing. And the Rotherham game is a perfect opportunity to come back in and get to the levels that he was before the international for the international fixtures. So yeah, it's. I think Hammers should play. I wouldn't play him the whole game. I'll give him 50, 60 minutes just to get used to performing again at that level. Because I think his confidence is suffering from being out of the side, and also the side winning when he's not on the side as well. Because that's kind of raised a number of age-old question marks about Hammers, whether teams perform better with him or without him. So Columbia Press definitely wants him playing again. Interesting point that I love Jake's story there about the banner for Rotherham, because I was wondering actually whether Everton would have sold out the 2,000 tickets for that game or not, given the time of the kickoff as well and given the opposition. Because, but in terms of the FA Cup, I was unlucky enough to get tickets for the Man United game, and it was such a crushing blow to be knocked out the Carabao Cup at that stage in the quarter-final. So I think it's got to be a relatively strong side we play against Rotherham United, because we can't afford any slip-ups. If we lost that game, the season's effectively over, isn't it? You know. So, well, yeah, we can all dream, Mass, you know, and without acting like the father of the house here, I've seen Everton Championship winning teams, and the one we got at the moment is nowhere near that level. but yeah, we have to play a relatively strong side. That's what the question for me is, right? And I know you think I bang on about this guy all the time. Cenk Tosun, if he's still going to be with the club, do we play him in the cup tie? Do we actually give him more than 3 minutes on the pitch? Do we give him a chance to show that he can make a contribution for the second half of the season? Or if we're going to sell him, fine, don't bother with it. But I think it's got to be one or the other. And I'd like to see Nkunku back again on the left side of defence. I think that lad deserves an opportunity. I'd also like to see Anthony Gordon start the game as well. I'm kind of looking at some of the teams we put out against Fleetwood and Salford and thinking, yeah, that's the kind of team I'd like to see put out in this game. A balance between experienced regulars and players with a point to prove who maybe can just grasp that opportunity. But the one thing we can't afford to do is lose against Rotherham. I mean, our cup run since that semi-final in 2016 has been quite poor, hasn't it? So it'd be great to have an FA Cup run. Even just to get to a semi-final, Wembley would be something there's possibility we could have some fans back in the crowd in stages by then. So yeah, but yeah, we just have to go for it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's just nice to not be playing Liverpool at Anfield in the third round for a change.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
We've had that like 4 years in a row.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think you've just put the mockers on it there. We'll probably get them in the fourth round away now, you know.
Well, they're doing the fourth round and fifth round draw together, aren't they, on Monday?
Yeah.
Sure. So that'll be interesting. What about you, Ben? Anyone you want to see, or anyone in any particular position you want to see on Saturday?
You know what? I kind of agree with Paul, because I want to see us go as strong as possible, with the caveat that I think DCL needs a rest. I actually disagree with the lads, with you, Paul, when you say about James Rodriguez, because just coming back to fitness, I think I'd much rather have him available for the Wolves game. And I don't know how fit he is to play 2 games in 3 years at the moment. If he's going to be able to play, like Paul said, 50 to 60 minutes and then come off and then be fresh for the Wolves game and fit and firing, then fantastic. But I don't know whether this is the kind of game James Rodriguez as well. I think not to stereotype it too much, but you're playing a lower league opposition at home. There may be tendencies there to maybe leave a foot in, or for it to be a bit more of a rough game than maybe a Premier League game would, because of the VAR and everything like that. So I don't know how comfortable I'd be with him starting that game. I certainly think I'd like to go strong in other areas of the pitch. I think Richarlison probably needs to start, and probably for me, like we alluded to earlier in the show, probably needs to play as a striker. So I think you then allow the likes of Anthony Gordon to play off the left. If Iwobi's back, play him on the right. If not, okay, you've got a decision to make there with James. I agree with you as well, Matt, when you say that Ben Godfrey deserves finally a performance in his right position at centre-half. And Nkunku coming back, that would be good as well. But, as much as we can change from our normal team, but making sure we get the result. Because like Paul said, I wouldn't quite say the season would be over. But you know what? The FA Cup this season, it's like any cup competition. Anyone can have a good run in it. And if you get the luck of the draw and you pick up the right results in the right time, you can worm your way, into a semi-final, and then you're only a game away. So for me, the FA Cup has to be priority, just like the Carabao Cup had to be priority. So for me, as strong as we can go, with the caveat that I probably would start DCL because he's looking a bit jaded, although I would keep him on the bench. And I probably would resist the temptation to start James and keep him fresh for the Wolves game. But again, keep him on the bench in case things are going really pear-shaped and we need an injection of quality later on.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting listening to you there, because I always do that as well. I go, right, I want us to be as strong as possible. but I want to rest this player and I want to see this player and that player. I think we all do it, don't we? Throughout the court, you know, I want to see Nkunku play. I want to see whoever else play. But yeah, that's an interesting one.
I just want to win without any injuries.
Yeah. I think he might go the other way with James though, and we'll look at it as if, you know, this could be a good chance to give him an hour to get himself, you know, back up to the speed of it and fit. And then I think he goes to Wolves with the view of being defensively tight and not conceding. And he might be on the bench for that, and he might bring him on later on to try and swing that game for us if we need to. But you know, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I just want to watch the lad play again because he clearly wasn't fit, was he, when he came back?
I love watching him play.
No, it felt like a bit of a desperation move, that, to be fair. But it'd be great to see him back in the side again. But yeah, we are out of time today. Thanks very much for coming on. Thanks very much for watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, cheers for listening as well. If you listen to us, the podcast, give us a rating, give us a review. All those things help in the grand scheme of things. But cheers to Jake, Paul, and Ben. That's been your weekly show. We'll be back again soon to talk about the Toffees.
Thanks, Mass.